like this dimension is here for us to play the game. It's here for us to understand, you know, the different lessons and challenges and people and experiences and teach and learn. We're all teachers and the students all at once. And it is really a game. So anything that you're attached to on a personal, very deep, wounded level, you're going to have to heal that, or else you're just going to keep coming back. So whether you want to call it like a game or the Matrix, or like, you know, the Buddhists call it like karma, like it's the same thing.
So you're saying you're going to keep repeating the patterns until you deal with it.
100%.
Because you can, like, perhaps in a sense, you thought that there was a lot of healing that was already done between you and your mother. But as soon as you went back together, you realized, perhaps the separation, you know, us living on our own in different countries was the true healing, but it wasn't. It was just that you weren't getting on each other's fucking nerves.
Exactly.
But then once you're cooped up together,
it's like it's whatever showed up for the both of us was at the perfect time. Like there was no other, everything prior was like we were doing our own work individually, and my mom and I are really close. And also, side note, she's also a coach, so that helps a lot. She's also in the same field, but works with different kind of energy and people and concepts. But whatever showed up was just, you know, like, do I go into this? Do I talk about this a little bit?
Why not?
I don't know. I guess we have all the time in the world now, right?
dealing with issues with parents, or things that you have to work on with parents, I think is a very relevant topic.
It is. And it's for everyone.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, so first of all, another thing, the red flag that I see with people is like, let's say I start working with a client. I'm like, okay, so let's talk a little bit about, you know, your childhood. And they go, oh, no. Like my childhood was perfect. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Like avoidance, suppressing, repressing something, you know? The mind is very smart. The ego is very smart. The subconscious is very smart. So, I did a lot of like inner child healing. There was a lot of things that showed up for me in the last couple of years. But a lot around my dad, because my dad was a pilot. He was very, I'm going to keep his privacy a little bit. So I'm trying to find his words properly.
Give us his social insurance number.
Speaking of, I keep getting like these calls about like,
they're bullshit.
Oh, it's so annoying.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of kind of, as a child, basically what happens is that your ego, you come in as a pure vessel, right? Like you're pure love. Like you are a sponge to the world. You definitely take on traumas and things from your parents. Like it is passed down through your DNA. So I do think that it starts with that first. And then our egos are created, our perspectives are created as we grow up. And that's why it's really important that you take the time to understand your own child's perspective. And I'm not saying your child as in like your own child. I'm saying your inner child, like you as a kid, because your perspective back then was valid. So you could have the same trauma or experience happen to two different kids, and one is traumatized for life and the other is chilling, like nothing happened. So my point is that when my dad was always leaving for work, I basically felt very much abandoned. I would actually hold my breath and make myself pass out.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he would have to pick me up by my foot and shake me for me to wake up. And then he would go to work. Like that's how, and like for the longest time, I knew this story and I would just laugh about it. I'm like, how ridiculous is that? Ha ha ha. And then this trip, I'm like, not so ridiculous.
Yeah. And so it's not always that like the parent did something to do it hard. It's just that you're super sweet, innocent child that hasn't experienced the world and built up the defense mechanisms yet. It treats it like it's a huge disaster to their love, or it's a
threat.
Yeah, it's a threat. It's like they let you down. It's very dramatic.
It
right?
is very, very dramatic. The mind is very dramatic, very much so.
And it has no point of reference, right? So
none. So
everything ranks on level 12 drama
all the time. But what's really interesting about kids is that if you look at any kid having a tantrum, they're going to have their tantrums. They're going to do their thing. They're going to feel it out. They're going to grieve it. And then all of a sudden they just like run off and like have the time of their lives. Right. But what's really interesting about that change in between is that they let themselves feel it. they have their tantrums. And in our society, having a tantrum, having an emotional breakdown, feeling emotions, expressing emotions, demonstrating emotions is suppressed. We're like, nope, don't be emotional, don't be psycho, don't be that person. Like we put labels on all those things, right? So then we don't feel what we need to feel, and then we suppress it and whatever, it can go on forever. But so basically my child perspective was very much around my dad. And because my mom and I are so close, I never really thought I needed to do work around that, because I was like, we're chill, we're on great terms. Like I've obviously, like my trauma's probably around my dad, blah, blah, blah. And then I realized this trip that I've been, what I call now, it's a new concept I talk about a lot, spiritually sugarcoating bullshit.
Spiritually sugarcoating bullshit. All right.
So I was spiritually sugarcoating my relationship and trauma with my mom by saying constantly that everything is fine. Like we're on great terms. Why would I have trauma around it? There's nothing that shows up. There's no triggers. But that was my way to mask in my mind what I was actually suppressing, which my mom, when I was 7 years old, started her own business. And both my parents were entrepreneurs. So that's probably why I have it in my blood.
Makes sense.
Which I'm so grateful for. But she went from being an at-home mom to a full-time business owner. And I definitely was forgotten at school. Maybe for 5 minutes, maybe for an hour. I don't remember, but I remember it happening. I remember just certain things here and there, like I'm trying to talk to her and she's on the phone, or we're in the car and I'm trying to show her something, she's talking to somebody else, or she can't come to my school activities because she has work. So there was a lot of resentment around work that I didn't fully acknowledge. And because this whole time it was all about my dad, I wasn't allowing myself to feel that about my mom. So when I was
it your ego just
spiritually sugarcoating bullshit?
Yeah, because the ego doesn't want you to get to the root of the problem, right? Mm-mm. So you could keep blaming your poor dad for everything. Meanwhile, the ego's being fed by these unkept wounds that were from your mom.
Completely.